Good morning, everyone. I appreciate everybody coming out this morning. I'm joined here this morning with Chief Mickey Fields of the Roaring Spring Police Department, Sergeant Dennis Gulick of the Pennsylvania State Police, Sergeant Brian Freewald of the Altoona Police Department, and Assistant District Attorneys Jonathan Thomas and Leslie Potts. Two teens have been taken into custody and charged as adults in the murder of 21-year-old Stephanie Waters. Deontay Dantes Moy, 16 of Woodbury, and Ryan James Hardwick, 15 of Martinsburg, have been taken into custody, arraigned before Magisterial District Judge Brian Baker, and remanded to the Bedford County Jail without bail. Moy faces the following charges: criminal homicide, robbery, aggravated assault, theft, receiving stolen property, carrying firearms without a license, criminal use of a communication facility, possession of a controlled substance, possession of drug paraphernalia, abuse of a corpse, unauthorized use of an automobile, cruelty to animals, and possession of a firearm by a minor. Hardwick is facing the following charges: conspiracy to commit criminal homicide, robbery, conspiracy to commit aggravated assault, theft, receiving stolen property, carrying firearms without a license, criminal use of a communication facility, possession of a controlled substance, possession of drug paraphernalia, abuse of a corpse, unauthorized use of an automobile, cruelty to animals, and possession of a firearm by a minor. On January 9th, the Roaring Spring Police Department received information that Stephanie Waters, 21 years old of Roaring Spring, went missing on January 8th. Information was disseminated to local law enforcement, and a missing person alert was posted on the Altoona Police Department Facebook page. On January 10th, the state police received information that an automobile fitting the description of that of Stephanie Waters was parked near an abandoned house on Salemville Road in New Enterprise. Trooper Derek Schrader and Corporal Brad Codd responded to that area and discovered the vehicle with Stephanie Waters dead in the rear of the car, as well as her dog. Both Stephanie and her dog died as a result of apparent gunshot wounds. Stephanie was pronounced dead by Coroner Sam Gordon at 4:54 p.m. on January 10th. The police investigation eventually led to Moy and Hardwick, who were both taken into custody early Sunday morning. During the course of the investigation, it was determined that Hardwick and Moy had discussed robbing someone for marijuana for several weeks. Moy had also been talking about shooting someone for several weeks. They originally set up a deal to purchase marijuana from Stephanie's boyfriend. However, Stephanie arrived at the agreed location. Moy and Hardwick then entered her vehicle, with Stephanie driving, Moy in the passenger seat, Hardwick in the back seat with Stephanie's dog. They drove a short distance, then parked the car. Stephanie showed Moy the marijuana. Both Moy and Hardwick smelled the marijuana. Moy then pulled out a gun and shot her in the neck. A few seconds later, he shot her a second time in the head. One of the teens then shot the dog. It has not yet been determined who pulled the trigger and fired the shots into the dog. They then tossed Stephanie's body into the back seat of the vehicle. Moy then drove her car to the Altoona area, where they drove around smoking the marijuana that they had stolen from Stephanie. They eventually returned to Moy's Woodbury residence, where they parked the car and spent the night. The next day, Hardwick dumped the car at the location where it was ultimately recovered, and he hid the gun and car keys in a closet at his residence, where they were also recovered by police. To think that a 21-year-old girl with a life full ahead of her was senselessly murdered over some weed is heartbreaking. The next time someone tells you that marijuana is a harmless drug, think about the family of James Deneen, who was murdered in September of last year. And think of the family of this young lady, Stephanie Waters, 21 years of age. We lost 2 young lives in the last 3 months over marijuana. And now even more young lives will be wasted away behind prison bars. Marijuana, a harmless drug, not to these families. Moy and Hardwick are both scheduled for preliminary hearings on September 21st at 9 a.m. I know I say this often, but I cannot overstate the level of cooperation and competence that we have in the law enforcement community. In this particular case, that cooperation crossed county lines. We had the cooperation and support of the Altoona and Roaring Spring Police Departments. We worked closely with the Blair County District Attorney's Office through District Attorney Rich Consiglio and First Assistant District Attorney Jackie Bernard. They assisted us with the preparation of warrants. Judge Travis Livingood made himself available throughout the night and early morning hours to issue warrants. Acting Warden of the Bedford County Jail, Troy Nelson, was diligent in making arrangements for the confinement of these teens, as committing juveniles to jail presents unique and difficult issues. And the state police, particularly Trooper Derek Schrader, who worked around the clock to solve this crime. From the time he came upon the body of Stephanie Waters, his shift did not end until Hardwick and Moy were behind bars. Not to sound cliche, but this operation ran like a well-oiled machine. Bedford and Blair County taxpayers certainly got their money's worth this weekend. And now we must seek justice for the family of Stephanie Waters. I've requested Assistant District Attorney Leslie Childers Potts, who heads our juvenile crime unit, to assist me with prosecuting these two wannabe thugs. My heart goes out to Stephanie's parents and her loved ones, and I promise them we will deliver justice. These two men wanted to live the gangster lifestyle. They talked tough, they acted tough, and that they can be as tough as they want from the inside of a prison. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
In the affidavit, it says they drove around, drove to the Altoona Hospital, considered turning her into the hospital, that she was alive for a lot of that time. Was she communicative? Does anybody know whether she was?
We don't know that, but we do have information that would support that she was alive for approximately 20 minutes after they shot her, and that they did contemplate taking her to the hospital.
Is that going to add anything to the case where, you know, they had the chance to save her life and decided not to?
I think it's certainly a factor that a jury will look at in terms of determining the heinousness of the crime, the premeditation, the coldness of heart. Those are the type of things you have to prove in a first-degree murder case, and I think that will go a long way to helping us prove that, absolutely.
Are you going to seek the death penalty?
Unfortunately, our United States Supreme Court has said it's impermissible to seek the death penalty for anyone who commits a crime under the age of 18. Since 2005, that's been impermissible in the United States.
Do you know where
Had they been 18 years old, without question.
Do you know where they got the gun?
The gun belonged to Hardwick's grandfather.
Do you know if she had ever encountered these two in the past, or was she just meeting them on the orders of her boyfriend?
Part of that's still in our investigation, how long they knew each other and the level of the relationship. They knew each other well enough to make arrangements for a drug transaction. So,
how much marijuana are we looking at here?
That's yet to be determined, but we're not talking about a significant, large quantity, a couple $100s worth probably.
Can you talk about the past for these folks? I mean, the suspects and the victims? Is that
No, I'm not going to comment on any of their
What led you to these two?
interviews with people that had information related to the crime and people in the area.
Did they talk, did it appear they talked about what they did? Did they tell people about it, or?
They did tell one individual, and that individual shared that information with the police, and that's how the police became interested in talking to Moy and Hardwick, and things unraveled from there.
You touched on the drug aspect of this, but they were discussing how they wanted to do this before. Is there an element of like thrill killing here?
Sounds like it to me. I mean, you know, we have evidence to show that both of them discussed committing a robbery. Moy particularly discussed wanting to shoot somebody. So, yeah, I mean, they thought they were some kind of gangsters, some kind of thugs. They wanted to live that lifestyle, and you know, unfortunately, we didn't know about this till after this crime occurred. But you know, when people make those kind of statements, you should be worried. That's not the type of thing that young people should be talking about. And if they're having those kind of conversations, it's not a good thing.
Can you talk a little bit about where the murder happened and in relation to where her body was found, about how far apart that is?
The shooting, we believe, occurred at the community building in Woodbury, and then the car was located in Salemville, in New Enterprise. I couldn't tell you the exact mileage, but it's all in a fairly short distance, a couple minutes driving time.
Could you just remind me, what was the time of the shooting roughly in Woodbury?
The time of the shooting?
Yeah.
Has not yet been determined.
Okay.
So they drove around in her vehicle with a dead body in it, smoking pot.
For several hours.
Several hours.
And then left the car outside of Moy's residence, where they slept the night away. Like,
Any
Nothing
idea why
happened.
they just was riding around?
I don't know. Can't answer that.
Now, if the
Coldness
murder-
of heart, really. Coldness
Coldness
of
of
heart.
heart.
Just very depraved, cold hearts.
With the shooting occurring in Woodbury, was there any reports of any gunshots heard? I mean, there was 5 gunshots. Was there any reports of that? I mean, it's kind of a small community.
Nobody's come forward with that information that I know of at this time.
And these two were well known in the community?
I don't know that. I mean, they're teenagers. You know, I don't know if they're well known. I mean, it's a small community. So now Hardwick's actually from Martinsburg, but they were acquaintances. They spent a lot of time together. They had a relationship.
Were they
Hardwick
students?
and Moy, they were friends.
Were they students of Northern Bedford?
I'm not sure if they both went to Northern Bedford or not. That's not been determined.
Do you know who drove the car the next day?
Moy drove the car. Moy was driving the car after the shooting and driving around Altoona until they came back to his house. It was Hardwick who dumped the car at its final location the following day.
It says in the complaint that Moy had court that morning. Is there any word on what he was going to court for?
I don't want to comment about any prior criminal history, but I mean, it would have been a juvenile court matter. I'll just say that.
This case seems to have like a Grand Theft Auto feel to it, the video game. Was anything recovered at the scene, like as far as those go? Or they mentioned video games, things like that?
Yeah, not to my knowledge, but I haven't reviewed the entire return of service for the items that were seized. But you hit on a good point there. I think, and I really hesitate to say this, but you know, those type of games do give you some type of numbness to this type of activity. You know, it's you know, seeing that and playing those type of games without proper, I don't know, parental guidance, caution, instruction, supplement. I'm not here to advocate that we should ban those type of games. Please don't take it that way. But there should be some parenting and some guidance to go along with that. Like, look, you're gonna play this game. It's just a game. You know, you have to live your life differently than you play games. And some people, those lines do seem to get blurred. There's no evidence of that being the motive or the catalyst to this crime being committed. But there's something definitely worth saying about that that lifestyle that people play those games and just kind of get that coldness and that lose that sensitivity to loss of life.
I have a photo on our Facebook page with them two with a firearm in their hand. Is that the same firearm that was used?
It was. I can tell you it was a revolver. I can't tell you that that's definitely the same firearm. And you know, as far as that photograph, I mean, I'll confirm that the two people in that photograph are these two individuals. But I'm not going to comment on the photo itself, and that photo is not being released by our office to the public. But obviously, they put it on their Facebook page,
Right.
and the media has used that
Access to it.
photograph.
Mhm.
But that's not something that we're using at this time. I'd be uncomfortable using that as something that our office is putting out there. Maybe something we use at trial, I don't know, but nothing that we're releasing to the media.
Regarding that revolver, has that been secured? Do authorities have that weapon?
We believe we have the weapon in question recovered and in police evidence.
Do you know what kind of tone the suspects have had during these interviews? I mean, are they apologetic?
I don't want to comment on any statements that they may or may not have made or their demeanor in speaking to the police. There's prohibitions on that, and that's why I can't discuss that.
Do any of the policing agencies want to add anything?
All I can say, I just want to reiterate again, these guys did a fantastic job. I know the Altoona, I don't know, Sergeant, you want to comment on how many Facebook hits did you get on that?
The Altoona Police Department Facebook post reached about 500,000 people when the body was discovered of Stephanie Waters.
So, you know, you hear good and bad about social media. In this particular case, that was one good way to get the information out that we were looking for a missing person. Unfortunately, by the time it was discovered she was missing, she was probably already dead. So nothing more could have been done, even if she had been located sooner. But because you know, the evidence we have, once she made contact with Moy and Waters, they shot her within minutes.
Have you contacted her boyfriend?
I said Moy and Hardwick. I'm sorry.
Have you contacted her boyfriend?
All people with information will be interviewed by the police. That's all I'm going to say. he likely has information, and the police will contact him and interview him.
Do you think these are the only two involved?
At this point in time, we have no reason to believe anybody else is involved. You know, obviously, you know, in an investigation like this, you want to make an arrest as soon as you have enough information to make an arrest, and then the investigation continues. So the state police will continue their investigation. If more people are involved and need to be charged, they will be. And if Moy and Hardwick need to have additional charges filed, those will be filed as well. But you know, when you're looking at people that are going to get involved in this type of activity, taking them into custody, getting them off the streets is top priority. So sometimes you make an arrest while you're still doing the investigation, and these are the type of cases where you have to do that. So we're obviously satisfied that the crimes they've been charged with we can prove, but if there's more people involved or more information that comes to light, additional charges will be filed, and if that means additional suspects taken into custody, so be it.
When she first went missing, it was reported that she was en route to Woodbury to see a friend. Did this, now with these two part of that, of her going to see her friend, or was this something that occurred after she was en route to go see her friend? She made a pit stop to pick up these two.
So some of those questions are still unanswered, and the investigation will bear that out. I don't know if these would have been the friends that she was talking about meeting, or if she was going to meet somebody else and met these two along the way. You know, multi-purpose trip, who knows?
Right.
But she didn't get beyond meeting Moy and Hardwick.
So that was her first
Yes.
stop.
Any other questions? Well, I really appreciate everybody coming out today. Thank you very much. And I will send out a written news release later today with photographs to all media outlets.
Mugshots
All right,
and
mugshots.
criminal complaint too?
And the criminal complaint. I can send a criminal complaint, mugshots, and a written news release from our office. All right? I'll have that out around lunchtime. All right? Thank you very much.